Afternoon. My name is Darren, and this is an introduction to my Dungeons and Dragons sessions. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for about 25 years or more, but recently I started playing again. I hadn't played for about 10 years, 15 years probably, and then I got together with a couple old friends and we reinitiated the game. Now, we are playing Dungeons & Dragons First Edition rules and world. We're playing Gary Gygax's brainchild, of course, Greyhawk, and most of his modules, actually, in his books are used in our gameplay. Two prominent players, Charlene and Brad, good friends of mine. And Charlene has two characters, Rain, a rather dubious thief of urban origins, very colorful, makes an interesting match. And her other character is Sorth, another interesting character, a half-orc, of all things, half-orc ranger, very good, very pure heart. And he, in turn, is married to another character which I run, my character, which is Yusacyril Durden, and Yusacyril is from the Underdark, and she herself is a drow. And she is the bride, wife of Sorth. Brad has two characters. His characters are Sir Robin, a paladin, rather focused, if not somewhat limited intelligence, but very, very powerful character, very good character. And his other character, interesting character, Gleep, a deep gnome, a Snurf Noblin from the Underdark, who is, we're not sure exactly why he came up. We're going to get to that eventually, but we're going back in the Underdark, as you'll see. We've been playing Dungeons & Dragons now for about 2 years with these characters in a campaign in which they started out with some low-level modules, of course, to build them up, and then when they reached about 3rd, 4th, 5th level, they got involved in a village of Hamlet, which is a Gary Gygax village, in the world of Greyhawk, near the city of Verbabonk. Yeah, near the gnarly forest and whatnot. Anyway, I'll get a map next time. They fought some adventures there, got caught up with the locals, became involved in the village, saved the village in a way, but brought trouble as well. Turns out Hamlet used to be a stronghold of an evil temple for some reason, and it was overthrown years ago, and part of this overthrowing had to do with another plot line, which involves, and this is one of the major plot lines which they've basically just caught up with, which involves a wand of Orcus, and I'll introduce that in a minute. But in Hamlet, they ended up getting caught up with slavers, and fighting this huge slave ring, some powerful slavers who had basically taken control of a region of Greyhawk and were winning until the characters came along and gutted a bunch of slave holds, killed a whole bunch of slavers, and in that process became slaves themselves briefly, and got involved searching for this evil shard. Now, this evil shard was part of the Wand of Orcus, and it had been hidden, and the Wand of Orcus had been taken apart when Orcus lost a war, and the part's hidden, and one of the parts was hidden on this in this world, and the slavers, it turns out, were looking for the shard as well. Why were slavers looking for the shard? Well, it turns out Eclavdra, which is one of the driving characters, evil driving characters in this whole scenario. Eclavdra is at the top of the pyramid, so to speak, as far as they know. She is the one who manipulated the slavers in the slave hold and got them to help her find the shard. Once she had done that, she dropped the slavers, left them to be destroyed by the party, in which they were more or less kind of were. They weren't totally destroyed, but they were really hit hard. The characters found out that this Eclavdra character was just playing along using the slavers. She fled with the shard. The characters had it briefly, but they lost it again. She took it. And then it turns out she was using her real base on the world, on the upper world, was the giants. And she went and sought refuge with them. There's 3 giants, the hill giants, the frost giants, and of course these are the classic modules. And the fire giants, Gary Gygax is classic against the giants. We went through most of this. We're at the climax of these adventures now. They gutted the hill giant hold. They gutted the Jarl's rift, the rift of the frost giant Jarl, which was the fire giant king's hold. Gutted them, killed more or less all the giants, got to the fire giant hall, found out Eclavdra was hunkering down here for some reason. She was doing something down here, and as it turns out, sorry, I've got to backtrack a little bit, the reason why they were going after the giants was not only because of Eclavdra, but because a large magical and chaotic sphere had appeared in the duchy of Geoff. Now, the Dutch of Geoff is in the world of Greyhawk. It's near the Misty Mountains and the Barrier Mountains, large mountains there somewhere anyway. And this bubble appeared, and it turns out that this bubble had been created by Eclavdra using the device, the shard, and by the way, she had she rebuilt the Wand of Orcus. She has the rod as well, and she somehow focused the energy, used the Fire Giant Hall, and is getting her plans done. The characters went into the Fire Giant Hall, gutted the first layer. There's multiple layers in the Fire Giant Hall. Gutted the first layer more or less, and were on their way to the bottom one when they ran into Obmi. Obmi is a dwarf, of all things, to be in a Fire Giant Hall. This dwarf, turns out, was a brother of Rodar. Now, I didn't introduce Rodar yet. He's a dwarf character that we met a few levels ago, about 8th level, 7th or 8th level, a couple levels ago. We rescued Rodar, no, we didn't rescue him. We helped each other. And anyway, he's now a party member. He's a dwarf. He's a tank. He's one of the tanks. And it turns out his brother is Obmi, and his brother killed their father in some family feud. So, a little background there. So anyway, they chased away Obmi. He's hiding somewhere right now. He's not dead or anything. And the party has gutted the first level, and they met some Rakshasas on the first level who were guests of the Fire Giant King. And the Rakshasas had been tricked by Eclavdra into giving her their compass. Now, a compass, and a Rakshasa compass, is basically a magical device they use to navigate the ethereal world and the planes. Without it, it's very difficult, and you have to be a master astral traveler and all this stuff and whatnot. You have to have some sort of focus, magic device. The compass was one. It acts kind of like a well of many worlds or whatever. And Eclavdra needed it for some reason. She tricked these Rakshasa into coming there. Who knows what she promised, whatever. Got them to hand over this compass. Oh no, she's very resourceful. And now these Rakshasas feel a bit silly, but they've kind of asked for the party's help. The party ran into them on the first level. They were actually locked in a room, and these Rakshasas didn't know what to do, kind of. They were caught, and so they agreed to make a truce with the party, and one of their member went with the party, and they made an agreement that they would get the compass back, and with the party's help, and then after that they would help the party, perhaps astral travel. I don't know, whatever, right? So we are right at the point where they just left the first level and they'd gone down, and it seemed too easy, right? They ran into some trouble. They actually ran into some, well, I guess bigger trouble than I thought. They found the guest quarters on the second level, in which they ran into an old adversary from the Hill Giant Hold, the Nosnra, the king of the Hill Giants, and he ended up actually killing Sir Robin in a personal duel. Now, I'm sorry, Brad, but anyway, it was a sad moment, but he wasn't completely mutilated and destroyed, so Yssaril was able to raise him from the dead and recover him and heal him, and it took a little while, and we had to retreat and whatnot, but he recovered, and we went on. And we chased Eclavdra, and she was always a step ahead, and we went into the inner sanctum of the Fire Giants, where they have their temple. Now, this evil, huge, grotesque temple was being used by Eclavdra as a focus point for some sort of device, an elaborate trap, Eclavdra's trap. Now, she triggers the trap. She coaxes the characters into the temple. They chase her in there. They think they got her. They think they're going to kill her. Meanwhile, she's had this set up for a long time. She triggers the trap, sets off this huge energy swell, and it's meant to send the characters to some horrible fate, probably some acid world or something in the abyss. I don't know, whatever. They were going to be going down. In turn, though, she was tricked herself. The trap backfired because there was a third party. Somebody else grabbed the characters and diverted them from this horrible fate and brought them to another place. I can't mention what it is yet, but because we're going to settle that tomorrow. It's going to be an exciting adventure tomorrow. I've worked on it for quite a while. The plot lines are meeting at this point now, finally. We're getting to the end results. At Eclavdra, there are a couple things I can say. I did let the characters know. When this trap was triggered, they actually were diverted. Not all of them were. And I'm going to let them know exactly who was. I've pretty well got a good idea who was. But for sure, the Titan Kendar they'd met. I should backtrack a bit. When they were in the second level, making their way through, they went to the prison complex where they kept the sacrifices and the prisoners. and there was a whole series of cell blocks, and they broke into them, and they let go. They found, to their surprise, a half-dead unicorn, which was going to be starved to death and sacrificed in the temple of the elemental god. And then they also found a drugged Titan, which was going to have a similar fate. They come from the same world as Titan and this unicorn. They're actually friends, and it turns out this Titan's name is Kendar. I forget the name of the unicorn right now. But anyway, they freed them. They were helping the characters. Things seemed to be going really well. They seemed to have found the temple. They had the Calavera cornered. They were going to kill everybody, and she set this trap off. Now, Kendar somehow evaded it. He's really powerful. He's a Titan, 20-hit Titan. He's incredibly powerful. He evaded it, and they're not exactly sure what happened because they triggered the trap. They're in the trap. And there's, of course, the big bright light, a lot of searing pain. But when they do kind of wake up, the first thing Sir Robin sees is that Eustace Cyril got sucked in and brought along. So she's there for sure. And other characters. But we'll get to that tomorrow. Anyway, so there you go. It's a very exciting campaign, very exciting adventure. I've spent a lot of time on it. There's lots of adaptations, so those of you hardcore Gary Gygax fans may be a little surprised at some of the turns I've used and the world I've adapted, but Gary's one of my gods, of course, and I thank him for the works he's done with this. Brad and Charlene have been great. They've done a really good job of their characters, no complaints. It's a learning process too. They're doing great. We're going to have some guests maybe tomorrow, and my nephew hopefully will join us again in the future. He has a couple characters. But anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. So this is part 1 officially, okay? I'm going to see if this works. Adios.